You are listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast brought to you by Birmingham Live. Hello, welcome back to the Claret and Blue podcast. My name is Dan Rowanson. I'm joined by James Rushton as ever. James, how are you, mate?
All good, thank you. Looking forward to Villa football, not England football anymore. Sick of the Euros, mate. I'm done with it.
Yeah, so am I. Get back to Villa. We're back in pre-season action this time next week. Walsall away. Yeah, all focus back on Villa now. Pre-season, the new kit, etc., etc. Today we're going to talk about the squad and look at the depth that we've got. We're going to do a classic YouTube thing. We're going to do a tier list. So we're going to go through and do keep, sell, loan, starting 11, and build out our kind of best team out of the squad that we've got as it stands today on the 14th of July 2021. But we've also got a fan survey for, I think it's 10 players. We had 5,000 fans voting on their opinion, so you're going to discuss those as we go on.
Yeah, we had a lot of votes on this actually, so it's pretty meaningful. I think when you have like 500 votes, it's a bit hard to dissect the results, but we've had quite a lot of votes on it, and it's it's not the main, but it's not your Jack Grealish and that, and your Ollie Watkins. We're debating the squad players and whether they should be kept at Villa or sold. Yeah. The tier list we've got is keep, sell, loan. So in the survey we've only got keep or sell. So I guess if a player's majority sell, we'll debate if it's like loan or sell in that instance.
Yeah, wicked. Shall we crack on with the tier list?
Yeah, let's go for it.
The first up is Louie Barry. And we're going to go back and forth our personal opinions, and then if any of these are on our little fan survey, we'll chuck that in as well. Louie Barry, for me, I think you probably keep him around and he plays another season of under-23 football, I think, with the chance of getting in the first team if and when we need him.
How it follows kind of the AVFC history of these young players is usually, it's like Jacob Ramsey. It's like you're around in that under 23 team, then a loan's assessed in like January, and then they usually smash it on loan the next season. And not usually, but that's happened with Ramsey. Go and do well on loan, then get into the squad kind of the next season. So I think that's the most likely is he'll start off as an academy player. Then in January a loan will be assessed. I mean, it would be brilliant if he's got a full season loan, but I don't think it's likely for someone that Villa want to kind of keep around and keep a very close eye on, because I'm really excited about him. New contract as well, so squad player.
We'll move into squad player.
The finished definition of squad player, by the way. Like, I don't think it's going to be on the bench.
Yeah, basically, it's start 11 and everybody else is what squad player is. Next up is another youth academy prospect. They are in alphabetical order, so it's Jaden, Philogene and Bedice. I think that classes as B rather than P. Same situation with him, same as Louie Barry, straight into squad player, but essentially under 23s.
No, because I think he missed out on the FA Youth Cup because of his age, so he's just a bit older than Louie Barry and kind of the stars you want to look, the young stars you want to be keeping around. I think it's a loan. He's got a lot of potential. He's really exciting. He's not allowed, he can't play the same amount of football as a Louie Barry. You can switch between, the development teams. So yeah, loan. But he was featuring in a cameo at the end for the first team. So don't know if the room's there anymore with Buendia there. We've signed another one. We could potentially sign in more attacking players. So yeah, loan. I want to see him, go out there and play some league football and see what happens at the end of the season, because pretty sure he'll be a Villa player in the future. So yeah, want to keep an eye on.
Good stuff. The next one, as many can see, he's still in a Norwich kit on our photos. Emi Buendia. This is an obvious one, and he goes straight into the starting 11, doesn't he?
Yeah, not even a question. Don't move on.
Okay, move on. Tell you what though, I'm very much excited to see Emi Buendia after seeing his little cameo in the Villa video yesterday of his tour around Bodymore Heath. He seems like a lovely guy. I'm like crying out for him to succeed.
Yeah, it's that he's a lovely guy as well, but it's just the pure excitement of a player. We know we've seen how good he's been. Like, he leads the other 14 stats charts all the time when he was in the Premier League with Norwich. So it's like, it still feels like a weird coup for Villa. Yeah. That they've got him. So it's straight, like, it's something I still can't kind of right in my head. Arsenal going for him, and he seemed like destined for there. Now Villa have got him, and I guess that led to kind of the Emil Smith-Rowe confidence and all the discussions there. But yeah, I can't wait to see Buendia in a Villa shirt, and I'm really excited. What Villa have built seems to be Dean Smith's personality really injected into the club, and regardless of whether he stays or leaves or whatever in the coming years, I hope that's something that can carry on. Like, it seems like they want to win, not like the dirty way, like the nice way. I mean, they can be dodgy on the pitch sometimes, can't they, Villa? They can throw in some right tackles on the pitch, but off behind the scenes, everyone seems lovely. Absolutely, I want to win the right way, which is amazing. It's something that's really something to be really positive about. Like the club that wants to be the best place for its players, you know, not just physically with a new training centre, but mentally as well. So really good.
Fourth player on this list is Matty Cash, another one that goes straight up into that starting 11 spot, doesn't he, and pushes on again this season.
Yeah, I don't see how, you know, Gilbert or Kane Kessler would overthrow him, you know, in that spot instantly. So I think he's around, mate.
Well, this starting 11 tab at the top is pretty much going to be the best starting 11 that we saw last season. It's not going to be much different apart from Buendia. But you never know, there might be a couple of changes in there. I think the next one is Chukwuemeka. It's hard to see on the little photo on screen here, but I'm pretty sure that's who it is, and it would be C as well. So yeah, Chukwuemeka, without analysing the youth prospects that much, he seems to be like the biggest one to come through next, I think. So what do you do with him? Do you keep him around, or is it a Championship or League One loan?
So there's two players I think that will come up in this. Maybe Kessler might come up in it. I don't know if he's on our list. But these, to me, are the two strongest prospects immediately, in the immediate sense. You know, who knows what will come at the end of the season, whether someone else will develop further than them. But Chukwuemeka, you could make the argument that he could be a squad player, because undeniably he had an impact in the games that he played, in the game that he played against Tottenham when he came on, you know, made a chance, almost scored. That's impact for me. That's, you know, confidence. Probably overconfident at a youth level because he just dominates that scene. So
yeah, it's too easy for him, isn't it?
It is really time to graduate. Whether that's alone or in the first team, don't know yet. But he really kind of toes the line between keeping around, seeing how they develop, and kicking on, because, you know, the Louie Barry situation is almost like he probably isn't going to get a bench spot or a starting spot anytime soon, whereas Chukwuemeka, that argument is there that he could be on the bench unless Villa sign more midfielders. So I'm really torn, because he could go out in Championship, League One and smash it, you know, but he also could be playing first team football and get quite a lot of minutes. But I think this one will be loan. They don't shy away. That, you know, they're physical. They've got the right mentality, and, you know, they've got they've got the technical ability. So, you know, either way, it can only be positive as long as they get that right loan move. If they go on loan and they, you know, they're suddenly not getting starts or anything, they need to be starting on loan. So I think, you know, as long as it's the right move, we'll see. But absolutely, I think Chukwuemeka, I'm going to go for loan, because I'd like to see him play 100% minutes next season. That's not going to happen at Villa. You know, next season he could be playing a lot more football in the first team. But either way, I think it's win-win, because arguably he's going to get minutes. He isn't going to play 100% of the time for Aston Villa, but, you know, a loan move, he could potentially be playing 100% of the time in the Championship.
Seeing as these two are similar then, and they're not in the same order, we'll talk about Kes now, because we've pretty much analysed that they're with similar attributes in terms of their development. Wrong word for it, but we move. What do you do with him? Because I suppose right back is it's obviously there's only one position he can play right back rather than a couple of options in midfield, but there's less right backs with only Cash and Gilbert there rather than the 6 or 7 midfielders that we've got. So just Kess to stay around and be that one pushing Cash, do you think?
I think he can also play on like the left as well. So it's intriguing in that he could stay around and be that replacement almost for Neil Taylor, because we haven't, you know, signed another left back. Well, we have got Ashley Young, but, you know, he could play on the wing as well. It looks like he could be that option up and down, whereas Neil Taylor only filled kind of one spot. So I think Kane Kessler could stick around, but it depends on it's like that preseason argument, mate. It depends on how he kind of kicks on in preseason. But again, I think a loan would be more beneficial.
I've put him up in squad play because I feel like he's more likely than Chukwuemeka to stick around, just because there's less competition for places. Yeah,
no, it makes a lot of sense, because, you know, there's only the depth at these fullback positions is kind of, it's only skin deep, isn't it? You know, you've got Ashley Young. If something happens in the wing, he's going to move up there. You know, Matt Target, of course, started most of the minutes last season for Aston Villa at left back. So I can't see him breaking through there unless something happens. And, you know, touch wood, it doesn't. But, you know, he's got the ability to kick on. Believe in him.
Yeah, those first like 4 that we've done there: Barry, Chukwuemeka, Kessler, and Philogene Badice. It's going to be a right nightmare trying to think of all these names. They could all be pretty much interchangeable there. I think any of those 4 could go on loan and any of those 4 could stay. So not a great start to trying to narrow down these positions when we're not even sure on the first few. But it's difficult with youth prospects, isn't it?
Yeah, they're in flux constantly. You know, Jacob Ramsey could have stayed or went on loan, you know, last season even. So they're always up in the air, because their future relies on the right decisions being made, and those are tricky decisions to make. You know, is it more beneficial that they stick around, play youth football, and hope for a first team chance, and that's it. You know, the best case scenario for Chukwuemeka, who's arguably the best out of those four. You know, he isn't going to be guaranteed first team football at Aston Villa, whereas alone, the argument's there that he could be playing a lot more football and develop at a quicker rate, and then you can see about a recall in January rather than the other way around. But look, we'll see in pre-season. I'm sure they'll be getting minutes because a lot of Villa stars who were out for the Copa America, Douglas Luiz is still out for the Olympics and the Euros, of course. You know, we'll wait and see because there is a chance for them to impress immediately.
Another one that's got a big chance to impress, and this is probably a make or break season for him in terms of his Villa career, Keenan Davis. This probably depends on Wesley's fitness and whether another striker comes in. So we'll probably do with another category to say, ask us in 3 months' time. But what do you think about Keenan Davis?
I think it's got, I know the argument's there for a loan, but we're still not completely sure about Wesley. Who's a striker if Watkins goes down? He needs to be kept as a, if we're talking right now and what's happening right now, it's got to be a squad player. We can talk about loan if we sign another striker, if Wesley impresses in pre-season. But I think the argument is the same for the two players, to be honest. It's got to be squad player because Villa don't have that first team striker without Ollie Watkins.
Yeah, agreed. I think this is a big season for Keenan Davis. If it's another season where he makes fleeting appearances and isn't really getting the minutes, it's not really good for him or Villa to stick around, is it? Because Villa can do better in terms of making a bigger signing, and he could go and play minutes elsewhere. I think he's a very capable footballer if he was given 90 minutes week in, week out. But in Villa's system and getting 8 minutes here and there in a game when you're already losing, I don't think he's going to come on and change games. So, yeah, it's difficult for Keenan Davis, I think.
He's one of the survey results as well, and it was 68% Sal. So,
wow, okay.
You know, I think if you're given that binary choice between keeper or Sal, Villa fans chose, well, a good percentage of Villa fans chose Sal. I think if there's a loan option in there, that would have been the more likely option. But based on Villa's squad as it stands this second, it's a keep because there's, you know, the only other strikers Wesley, and you probably need 3 strikers unless you're looking for Louie Barry to kind of step up. But I still think it might be just a little bit too early. I have faith in him, but if the chance comes, but I think we'd all feel a bit more comfortable with 3 senior strikers and a new one. Then we can make some choices. Amar
Ghazi up next. I don't think he goes into starting 11. I think he's probably going to be a squad player. But if you'd asked me, I don't know, 6 months, 8 months ago, I'd have said, he's not going to contribute much towards Villa. We need to improve massively in that department. But he ends the season with 10 goals, and you think, oh, yeah, he's not that bad.
Yeah, I think he really kicked on and impressed us all. He's only improved in an Aston Villa shirt, which is really kind of positive to see. He had a decent first year. Everyone had a rocky first season in the Premier League. He had a really difficult pre-season as well. I think he played against Burton and he looked really off it in the Carabao Cup. Didn't look that much better in kind of fleeting cameos, but when he got a starting spot, he absolutely smashed it and didn't look back. So, you know, I'm really excited actually to see what the next season holds for him, because I feel like he was unfairly left out of Holland's team for the Euros, and he could have been an impact in that kind of gung-ho team. What the future brings for him at Aston Villa, I don't know. But, you know, if he carries on like last season, he can only improve. So absolutely a squad player. Really impressed with him. And 75% of our Villa fans in the vote think so as well. So really positive. He's kind of earned his spot at Villa. He's fought for it. We love to see that, you know.
The next player on this list requires no introduction. Jack Grealish holding the Aston Villa corner flag in that photo there. Straight to start 11, isn't it? There's absolutely no way he's anywhere else.
I think we need to recognise the place of this club in the hierarchy. We need to sell him, because, you know, when Manchester City asks for a player, well, that's what you have to do. You have to sell. So unfortunately, mate, if you could drag him over to sell, I'm joking. He's starting 11, and he's, you know, in my eyes, he's a starting 11 for the next season, because he shouldn't be leaving, I don't think. So stay. What
do you make of all the links with him and Man City? I mean, Ash did a Facebook Live yesterday, I think it was, and he said, look, there'll be an offer for Grealish on the table from Villa for a new contract, and whether he signs it or not, you know, is yet to be seen at this point, I think. But then you see all these reports come through of, Man City want to say, 88 million's enough, 95 million, 120 million. He's got this buyout clause of 65 million, and all these different reports with different figures. And you think, well, no one really knows what's going on here. Jack Grealish is on holiday now after getting to the Euro 2020 final. We all look at that and go, he's not really played much of a part from a Villa perspective for England. So, you know, is that in his thoughts, thinking, well, if I go to Man City, yes, I might win the Premier League trophy, the Premier League title and the Champions League or whatever. But if I only play 13 games out of 45 available, is that worth it? Some will counter that with saying, well, playing for Pep and winning trophies, you don't reject that at 25, 26 years old in your career. This chance might never come from again. My argument to that would be 2 or 3 seasons more with Villa, and I still think he'd be good enough to go on and play for Man City and kind of end his career winning titles with them anyway. So I don't think it's the time for him to go. My gut instinct says that Villa will offer him a new contract, because I think they'll do that every year now while he's here, because he'll always be better than he was the year before, and there'll always be interest. And I think he'll end up staying, because I don't see why it has to be Man City this year. I think it could be next year. There's no reason to jump off the Villa train at the moment, because we're headed in the seemingly right direction. Once Villa start showing signs that they're not making progress, then yeah, that's his decision to go on and leave then. But I think there's parallels with the Smith Rowe thing, isn't there? You look at that and go, well, Villa probably aren't going to get him, and he signs a new contract with Arsenal. I think the same with Grealish and Man City. Man City will want him, of course they will. Their fans will want him. Villa would probably be quite happy with 100-odd million. It's a great figure, isn't it? It's to go on and improve your team. But they'd much rather have Jack Grealish, and so I think if you add all that together, that equals him staying, I think.
Yeah, I think obviously Manchester City, we know that you don't need to even read to know that they'd be interested and know that they would want him and might try and engineer. Yeah, exactly.
Which club wouldn't want him?
Exactly. So I think, look, as a Villa fan, you have to kind of grin and bear it and not kind of consume things that will annoy you, because you're only, if you go looking for Jack Grealish is moving, you're only going to find stuff that says kind of Jack Grealish is moving. So I think just chill out. We'll see what happens. Whatever happens, happens. We have no control over such things. The only person who does have control is Jack Grealish. No one can force his hand to sign a deal with Man City. And Villa still have a lot of control over this deal, whether there's, there could be a release clause or not. We've heard both arguments. We've heard both sides, that there is or isn't. So Villa got to do what they got to do, put a contract at the table, and Jack Grealish is in the best place to make a decision. Look, he knows the workings of the club better than anyone. He's been there the longest out of anyone in that first team. He's been there longer than the managers. He's been there longer than the owners. So he knows the club better than anyone. Probably anyone in involved with Aston Villa. So I find it hard to kind of see how people would kind of put their own decisions on him as fans, because he knows the club better than we do. He's involved with the inner workings of it, and he's seen it progress. So if there's something that he doesn't like and he sees it going in the wrong direction, he could move to Man City. But I don't see, after they've met his goals, how that would happen this summer, because it's obviously more likely to happen next summer if there isn't that progression. So I have to wait and see. But even if we don't make European football, I wouldn't go, that's it, Jack Grealish is gone, because we've done that every summer. Every single season, Aston Villa fans have said, right, he's probably going there, and we lost the playoff final and he's going. And that was probably the most realistic scenario. Then the season after, how can we hold him as a minor Premier League club? Then this season, we didn't get European football, he's gone. And then next season, we've been proven wrong actually by him every season. So have a little bit of faith and see what happens. Obviously, it'd be upsetting if he goes, but I don't think it's a realistic scenario right now.
There's kind of this other argument that he's not played much at the Euros, so he has to go and play for a top 4 club now to kind of show his worth and get in that England starting 11 and be replaceable. You've seen all the memes with Sancho moving to Man United, and then he was in the starting 11 for the next game, and everyone's going, you have to go and play for a big club to get in there. But if you go to Man City and win the title, but you only play 30% of their minutes or whatever figure it would be off the bench and coming and starting the odd game here and there, does that get you in the England squad over playing 38 games with Villa and getting 14 goals and 12 assists or something? Like, surely it's better to play a full season and get good numbers with Villa, and they finish 10th, than it is to do worse numbers and less minutes with Man City but win the title.
I don't know, maybe you move and you get involved more in the England squad, but I don't see kind of how the fit is now, how if he was to move this second, that he'll be starting the next game.
Yeah, Phil Foden plays for Man City and he wasn't starting for England. Those creative attacking players just don't fit Gareth Southgate's lineup. And whether that's right or wrong is up to Gareth Southgate. And lots of fans will look at it and go, we weren't attacking enough. I mean, this is delving into analysis of the England final now, but if we're not attacking enough, it doesn't matter who's on the bench. If the manager doesn't want to play that kind of system, you don't have to play it. And we might not agree with that, but we've got to our first final in 55 years. So part of me feels like I can't grumble with that. My instinct is just stick with Villa. I know that's biased because I'm a Villa fan, but stick with Villa, play a full season for the first time, I think, in his career. I don't think he's completed a full season without getting injured. And absolutely smash it with Villa. You win both sides, don't you? You personally, you get so good that you can't be dropped from the national side, and you hopefully push Villa up into European competition, so that the following season you stay with Villa again and keep pushing up and achieve your goals with Villa. That's the perfect scenario, and that's not unattainable, is it, really, to get into that top 6 this season?
If you want if Jack Grealish wants to be starting constantly for England squad, the best thing that can happen isn't a move to a different club. It's literally like Steve McLaren being in charge or something like that, because they just wouldn't not pick him. Like, it's like, and you know, Southgate's got his plan, whether it works or not. I think people are still kind of hotly debating it. I don't know, like whatever. But Grealish has kind of been a part of his plans, not as much as people would want, but it's like he has been involved, not to the extent that we would all want. But you look at a Jadon Sancho and you look at a Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish was trusted far more as a Villa player, which is, it's nice to see, and I don't see how a move unlocks it for him. The only thing, if you want Grealish to be a 100-time starter for England, no one really is, outside of like 4 or 5 names in that squad, like starts all of the time. You'd have to bring in like a Sam Allardyce who would just literally just put him on because he's Jack Grealish all the time. That's it. Or an attack-minded manager who would build the side around him.
If Dean Smith was England manager, Jack Grealish would start every game. It's just who likes you as a footballer, isn't it? Who plays a system that suits your style of play. That's the only reason he's not in there. It's not about what club you play for. I think that's an easy narrative to go for, but I don't think there's any stats that back up that you play for a big club, you play for England.
He picks the players who fit his ideals best, and it was probably up for debate in his mind that Grealish even fit it at all. But I think he's found a way where Grealish fits in, and hopefully, you know, because he'll likely be manager at the next World Cup, that he only continues to trust Grealish further, because it seems like that's the best thing for his football team, because Grealish made the most chances, I think, per 90 at Euro 2020, and he played far fewer minutes than anyone else on that list. So, you know, really positive stuff. I don't think a club move suddenly changes his prospects at an international level now.
So quickly back to Villa and the rest of this tier list. We've got about 20 players to go. Does he stay or does he go?
Stay.
Yeah, same. We move on. The next player on the list, I think, is Freddie Gilbert.
No, I think he's a keep. He's probably a likely sell. Not that I would put him there, but I feel like if an offer came in, Villa would just take it. Yeah, I think squad player. Freddie Gilbert really impressed me, actually, which is a shame. But Matty Cash kind of took it to another level. So I think squad player. But realistically, if an offer comes in, at likely sell for Villa.
Yeah, but I think that's spot on. I think Cash is your main choice. Kessler's your backup option with Ashley Young, who can obviously play the right side as well. I think if no offers come in for Gilbert, he stays. If someone wants to take him on loan with a view to buy him somewhere in France like he did last summer, he goes out again. And if the offer's there, he goes with our blessings. He seemed all right for a decent part of that first season. But as you said, Matty Cash is another level, and he doesn't come in and displace him from that team. So I'm going to put him in squad player for now, because I wouldn't be against him staying, but I'd be perfectly happy if he ends up going somewhere else. I don't think it's a massive loss to Villa. Courtney Hall's next. I think, again, of similar ilk. He's probably going to be around that squad player. If someone comes in and wants him and there's decent money to be made for Villa, they take it. But as it currently stands, he's third choice centre-back, isn't he, with Engels going. So at this point, he kind of has to be in that squad player list, doesn't he?
With Courtney Hall, there's always a lot of hype about, you know, how many aerials he wins and how kind of dominant he can be as a defender. But the sample size is really small, and that's what we have to kind of consider with a player like Courtney Hall. He can do really good things defensively, but we've only seen a little bit of him, so it always looks like the stat is almost per night is so much bigger because he's played fewer minutes. But with when Tyrone Mings is doing well, you always see that, and I believe in Courtney Hawes. But we saw when Mings came out of that squad, when causing contact in, suddenly the pair kind of almost regressed. Like it was only one game. They'd have got better if they were playing together in a partnership. When they both called upon to kind of play together, it was a tough defensive performance. It wasn't a kind of a Villa defense that we became accustomed to, and that is a big part and down to the leadership of Tyrone Mings. But yeah, absolutely squad player, because I feel like if there's an injury in a defense, and Courtney Hawes is called in to be part of that defense, and Tyrone Mings is in there, Courtney Hawes is such a better player. It's like Konza.
Yeah, I agree. I think he'll be in and around it. I don't see him leaving, and I think Villa have to sign another centre-back, don't they, unless they promote one from the youth academy.
No, I don't think so. I think, it's still a bit too far for probably a Mungo bridge to kind of get in. Courtney Hawes can cut it at a Premier League level. We know that it was a struggle for him in some games last season, the Crystal Palace one. But look, he can do it, so trust in him.
The next player on this is Conor Harahan, and I think this is the first player that goes into our sell category for me.
Yeah, you know, it's
a shame in some ways.
Yeah, I think definition of a squad player, because you can make an impact. He scored Premier League goals last season, take a free, you know, set piece like no other in the Villa team, and we struggle to take a kind of corner without him, to be honest. But he wants to play first team football, and he's a fighter. So with all, you know, all the respect and, you know, favour in the world, he goes on sale, and I hope he gets the move that he wants, because he's given a lot to Villa, an absolute lot. And you know, we've kind of moved onto a level where he isn't fitted in anymore. Maybe he believes he can make an impact, and I hope he gets a Premier League move. But, you know. Yeah,
there's absolutely a chance that he can go to a kind of bottom six Premier League club and play every single minute for them and do well. I think he's a decent player. I think he's obviously got his limitations like most footballers have, but what he's good at, he's very good at. I'd be all right with Harahan staying if... would I? No, I probably wouldn't actually. I think Villa's aspirations are bigger than Conor Harahan at this point, which is a shame. But he did his job for us in a couple of seasons by getting us to the Premier League in the first place. So he'd go with my blessing, and wherever he ended up, I'd be always kind of looking out for when he bangs in another free kick for a team chasing for the top six in the Championship or whatever. So I think he goes into that sell category, doesn't he? And you know, goes with our wishes, best wishes.
Yeah, a lot of fantastic moments from Conor Harahan. He doesn't deserve to rot, you know, in the reserves, does he? He absolutely has to be playing, and he'd want to. So, you know, with all the blessing in the world, off you go, Connor. Enjoy.
What did the fan survey say about him?
80% sell. Yeah. It's time for him to go, but it's not a negative thing. He's done his job, and you know, fan favourite in my eyes. A lot of great moments have come from his foot, so fantastic.
We move on to the next one, which is Ezri Konsa, and again, another one that's absolutely straight up in that top tier, starting 11, no doubt about it.
Yeah, when we bought him for like 12 million, and I know Arsenal were interested, so that's another, you know, net win for Aston Villa over the Gunners. I didn't expect him to develop as quickly as he did.
No, I didn't.
No, I thought it'd be Engels and Mings, and look, he's essentially sent Engels packing, hasn't he, to be fair. So fair play to him. Björn Engels wasn't a bad defender for Aston Villa. He's gone now, but it was barely worth talking about it. But that's because Ezri Konsa developed so quickly, knocked a starting member of the team out, and he never came back. And, you know, arguably the argument's there that he's the best defender at the club, and it's very hard to disagree with that. But when a character like Tyrone Mings isn't in the squad, there's a lot more pressure on Konsa to kind of lead, and he's probably not there yet, but he could be, which is really exciting. You know, if you've essentially got another Tyrone Mings, but probably a better defender, you really can't argue with that, can you?
Yeah, I think he's a scary talent, and I think he'd be worth a lot more than we pay for him now, probably 3 times more, if not more than that. And I'd be, barring an injury, which God forbid happens, I'd be shocked if he wasn't in that World Cup squad for the 2022 with England. I'm going to tweak the order. After saying these were in no particular order, I'm not now going to do Douglas Luiz next. I think you have to do that midfield section as a section, because they all depend on one another. So we're going to skip out Douglas Luiz, go to Emi Martinez, Copa America winner, Lionel Messi's best friend, straight into the starting 11, without a doubt, one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League, and an absolute steal for Villa at 20 million.
Yeah, scary mentality. The stuff he said in the Copa America, I didn't know he had it in him. Terrifying player.
Celebrations were next level as well.
Did you hear the penalty shootout
going on?
That's really cruel, Emi, but like he's a wonderful, really lovely person.
No, he's a winner though, isn't he?
He rattled Yerry Mina. I didn't even know you were allowed to do that, like, because it feels like when someone's taking a penalty, you shouldn't be able to just sit there and rinse them. But he was just telling him how much he's a little boy and stuff, and you know, all sorts. So I've never seen a more effective example of it, you know. And he essentially, I know Di Maria scored the winning goal, but I feel like without that semi-final and how poor Brazil were in the final, how boring the match was, he essentially won them the Copa America in my eyes. So that penalty shootout was the winning moment. Without that, they go home. So, you know, congratulations, really, really well deserved. You've got a Copa America winner in the team, and he couldn't have been a more important player in that Argentine squad. So hopefully the next one, World Cup, when Deer can be there with him as well. Wouldn't want him winning it over England. But if they were to, and you know, like, that'd be horrible, wouldn't it? You know, Tyron Mings is taking the 7th penalty, and Martinez is rinsing.
Imagine Emi Martinez and Tyron Mings squaring up for a fight. Who would win in a fight, Emi Martinez or Tyron Mings?
No, I reckon Tyron Mings knocks him straight out. No, Martinez is a lot. He's got the mentality. It's all talk, but Tyron Mings could take him easy. Yeah.
We'll go on to Tyron Mings next. Unless Villa go out and spend massive money on a centre back, he's the starting partner for Ezri Konsa, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. You miss him when he's not there, and he had some terrible moments last season, but I think with the game he's asked to play and the game Villa has to play and the responsibility he has, I don't think anyone has more tactical responsibility in the Villa team apart from Tyron Mings. You know, he stands alone as someone who takes and carries the whole squad when he needs to. You know, if someone's required to put their team on the back and it's not Jack Grealish, it's usually Tyron Mings. So defence improved last season. Inarguably, he's a massive part of that, as well as Martinez, Konsa, Cash, and Target. So has to stay, and I hope that a few people can get off his back, maybe, because we saw what it was like without him, and it wasn't worth watching, to be fair. And
definitely not to make this podcast political, because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But his tweet the other night was sensational, and I just feel I wouldn't want anyone different representing Aston Villa. I think he's a great representative, a great human being, and I just love the bloke. Yeah, he might have his flaws. He might not be the world's best footballer, and he might make the odd mistake here and there, leading to a goal that sees Aston Villa lose a game every so often. But I think he's a great footballer, even better human, and for that, he's straight in that starting 11 for me. Unless, like I said, Villa go and spend 60 million on somebody, he's going to be starting for Villa next year, isn't he?
Yeah, it's not just the fact that people said he shouldn't be starting for England and played pretty well in the first 2 group games.
Very well.
It's the fact that he's calling out hypocrisy at the highest level, which is just, it was jaw-dropping kind of what he did, but that's Tyron Mings for you, isn't he? Someone who stands up, whether you agree with him or not, I don't know how you could disagree with him, to be fair. He stands up for what he believes in, and that is so important with stuff we've seen at, plasma. We have a daily in Atkinson, essentially, which I don't think we can go into on the podcast. But he stands for what he believes in, Dan, and he's a meaningful player to Aston Villa. So absolutely starting 11, God tier.
Where do we want to go to next? Let's go with some of these are going to be obvious, so we'll get them out of the way. We'll go with Ashley Young next. He goes into squad player, doesn't he? He doesn't come in and displace Matty Target straight away.
No, I think...
And obviously you don't loan or sell a new signing.
No, you sell him. Cheers, Ashley. We just wanted to get some revenge and sack him off to Norwich. It'd probably be a good player for Norwich with Rashida. I have to fill a creative hole left by Buendia. He's got every chance of kind of... The player that Ashley Young is and the mentality he has. I think Villa buy mentality first, which is mentality and experience first.
And character.
Yeah. Not experience in the terms that, they're suddenly buying 38-year-olds, but that if you've developed well at a young age and you've had that experience and you can kind of come in rather than being unproven. Ashley Young, probably not starting left winger, but there is an argument to be made that if Matt Target isn't cutting it, and he probably will cut it because Matt Target's been very good last season, that he could be Villa's starting left back. He was, involved in the 2018 World Cup squad. So, recent memory, he's been involved at the highest level of the game, last season Inter Milan as well. Shicking the year then. What year is it? 2021. So, every chance that by the end of the season he could be a starting player for Aston Villa, that would probably involve either Matt Target falling off a cliff form-wise or an injury occurring to Buendia or Grealish. Touchwood doesn't happen. But yeah, the potential's there. They wouldn't have bought him just to knock around. So it should challenge and progress.
Who else is quite obvious? Matt Target, we just talked about him there. So he's the left back straight into that starting 11. We've got 7 of 11 now sorted. And this is probably where it starts getting interesting with the midfielders. Ollie Watkins also, we'll stick him in there, starting 11. He absolutely keeps his place.
Yeah.
And what's the target for Watkins this season in terms of, I don't know whether, strikers definitely won't publicly say about a goal target, and whether they even have one or not is debatable. But if he is setting himself a target, what will he be happy with, do you think, this season?
If he could challenge for 20 goals, and I know he had a few kind of ripped off him unfairly because of VAR last season, but if he can challenge for 20 goals and improve and progress on his tally last season, it'll be a massive achievement for him, I think, and obviously that will progress Villa. His first season was so good, actually, that I find it hard to see how he could be any better, but he's got the right mentality. As I said, Villa buy that mentality, buy that experience. Ollie Watkins is going to be the first team striker across Villa, so the target wouldn't just be his own tally, it'd be helping Villa get into Europe, because starting in Europe kind of 2 seasons after moving from Brentford, fantastic achievement.
We had to talk about the midfield as a whole a little bit, really, to decide who stays and who goes here. But we'll start with Douglas Luiz first, and then we'll go through the rest of them.
At the moment, it's starting 11. For the way Villa want to play, I know we go on about wanting a ball-winning defensive midfielder, but they don't have that. They have that in Nakamba. I'd like kind of an improvement, but if you're talking about the way Villa want to play, the only guy for the job there is Douglas Luiz, and look, he's had a busy summer, hasn't he? He's going to be playing in the Olympics, and so he's going to be cutting well into the start of the new season. He's won't have a pre-season with Aston Villa, so it's debatable whether we see the best out of him, because essentially, what's that now? So you had Project Restart, then we pretty much went into another season. He's played football straight through since Project Restart, so his best days in Project Restart is straight through, so he hasn't really had much of a break, which is unfortunate. But yeah, he's got to be starting 11, Dan, at the moment. The way the Villa squad's built at the moment, and the criticism he's received, on his best days, one of Villa's best players, so starting 11 for me.
We'll go straight into John McGinn then. Just pretty much exactly what you said about Douglas Luiz apply to him then. As it stands, as of right now, he's the starting midfield unless Villa make some tweaks in there and bring in a new midfielder.
Yeah, for me. I know, again, it's the same as Luiz. He's had his criticism, but again, on his days, one of Villa's best players. I remember performance against Crystal Palace towards the end of the season. Chelsea was a good one. Both games against Chelsea were good ones. The Crystal Palace one kind of died off. He was expected to carry Villa quite a lot when Grealish was down, obviously. He's at his best when Villa are strong and when Villa are fit. That's not all the time, so hopefully he can kick on and be a bit more independent and a bit better for Aston Villa. Rumours of a bid, like Liverpool and that being interested. It's always the same, innit? Oh, they're interested, they're preparing a bid, this and that. If Villa were to accept a big fee for him, I wouldn't be 100% gutted. I'd be gutted losing the personality and character that he brings to the pitch. But I think Villa can get a good midfielder for the price he would probably go for. So, you know, hopefully it doesn't happen. But if it does, it's not as devastating as like a Grealish. Oh
yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of this depends on formation as well and who we're playing. I've just counted through as you were chatting there, and of that starting 11 tab at the top, we've got 10 players. So we're missing one from our starting lineup. Now, do you go 4-3-3 with 3 actual midfielders, McGinn, Luiz, and somebody else? Whether that's a new player, whether that's Sanson, Nakamba, Ramsey that we get to talk about, whether that's Grealish playing back in the centre, or do you play Buendia as a 10 and you have 2 wingers? Do you play? Do you know what I mean? Is it a 4-2-3-1 or is it a 4-3-3? I think that depends on what you're going for at the moment. If it's a 4-3-3, McGinn and Luiz both start, and you could probably sign somebody else to go in there. If you're playing a 4-2-3-1, do you trust McGinn and Luiz to play that 2 sitting role together with 3 more creative players in front of them? I'm not so sure. I feel like if you're going to play those 2 as a 2, you probably need a 3rd in there to shore it up a little bit and allow McGinn to push on a little bit more further forward.
Yeah, this gets a bit more interesting when Villa hopefully have a few more options come the start of the season. Right now, I see that as potentially Buendia or Jack in the middle rather than, you know, out wide, one of Buendia or Jack who we've picked out wide. Or you could, I feel like Douglas Luiz could do maybe pushing up a little bit more, and maybe John McGinn's at 10, and we have Nakamba or Sanson in a position there. There's a few more options there, and I know we've only added Buendia, really, and Ashley Young, but from the options we have, it seems like those 2 players give so much more because there's a variety of positions they can play. And Buendia especially, because play him on the wings in the middle, probably where Barkley was playing last season as well at a push. So, you know, I don't think there's an emergency there to constantly buy 3 more players. I feel like 1 or 2 really strong additions opens up a whole new world for Dean Smith, to be fair, because we're at a point now where we're looking at him in the Cameron Sands going, oh, actually, as a player who on his day could start still for Villa. So we haven't seen the best of Sanson as well, of course. And Canberra had a few great games last season, so lots to come from him. Let's
try and rattle through a couple of more of these obvious ones then. I've got Trezeguet down here. He's injured, isn't he? Probably till the new year. So he just goes into squad player and unavailable. You don't sell him or loan him out, obviously, if he's injured and doesn't start either. So that's one gotten rid of already. Wesley's probably a similar nature, I'd have thought. He's obviously fit and ready, but he's recovering from that long-term injury. Now, I've put him straight up there in squad play, because I still think he's got a role to play in that 25-man squad or whatever it is in the Premier League, behind Watkins starting. And we just have to wait and see what kind of fitness levels he's at in pre-season and the start of the season, don't we, really? There'll be some people watching this, though, that will say he's not going to cut it, he's not up to standard, he should be in that bottom tier cell.
Yeah, in the fan poll we did, it was actually 50-50 split direct to keep and sell. We were on the verge of probably seeing the best of Wesley against Burnley, ironically, and he had just quite a traumatic injury that he hasn't fully recovered from. I think when he saw it come back into the team, he was essentially playing in midfield just to get a touch to the ball. Because you heard Dean Smith roaring at him just to get forward. But he's in the same situation as Keenan Davis. By default, he's a squad player because there's no other striker. If Villa don't have Ollie Watkins because of injury, touch wood, that doesn't happen, or suspension, they have to play one of Keenan Davis or Wesley. And if one of those plays, one of them also has to be on the bench. So, it just comes a lot down to how Louie Barry will kick on as well, and Brad Young, of course. But, we have to go with how the squad is built right now. Wesley and Keenan Davis for now are squad players. I wouldn't be seeking to move them on without a replacement.
Do you think if that is the three that we go with for the season, are you happy with those three, or should we be looking to upgrade on those? Yeah,
in my mind, look, you can be a bit conservative and say, look, Villa need a really strong striker. Potentially true, but in my mind, Ollie Watkins starts 38 games, or we get into a position to start as many games as possible. And if there's an alternative striker that brings a different style to Villa, they probably match. They're more closer to what Davis and Wesley can bring on their best day. So I'm not rushing out, to buy one. I'm looking at Shaw, probably a younger signing, or someone who's probably a bit more underrated. You might look at a similar thing to Ashley Young, someone who's got a bit more experience but isn't really been looked at by bigger clubs. So yeah, we'll see.
All right, so that's Wesley done. We've got Traore, Jed Steer, Morgan Sanson, Jacob Ramsey and Nakamba to go. We'll do Jed Steer next, again, straight into squad player, isn't it? He's the backup goalkeeper to Emi Martinez. Kalinic now has gone out. He was one in that fan poll that we did, and I assume almost the vast majority of people would have said to sell him, and he's gone now. Backup goalkeeper, do you think we need one?
No. I mean, Steer was we've had pretty all right third choices for quite a while now. Steer, many people wanted to start in the Premier League with him when we first came up, and the kind of signing of Tom Heaton may have come as a surprise because of how well Steer adapted in that crucial Championship run. But from what I've seen of the young players, Sinisalo was starting last season, I think, for Dundee or Dundee United. I know I'm going to get one of them mixed up. I always get one of them. And of course, very near rivals. And there's Akas Onode, who played in the FA Cup. I was going to say the FA Youth Cup. It was the FA Cup match against Liverpool. He played a senior appearance, of course, and done himself either. So I don't see a rush to buy a third choice keeper, mate, at all. Nah.
We'll go Traore next. There were so many spells I just thought, he's so one-footed. I don't quite know what he's bringing, whether he's good enough. And then other times I think, he's a definite starter for me. As it stands, I think he probably goes up into that starting 11 bracket for me.
Yeah.
Just as of today, with no other signings, if we had to pick a team, I think I'd play him on the right, Jack on the left, and Buendia at 10. I think that's what I'll go for.
Yeah, we said a lot about Conor Nakamba and Sanson and adjusting the formation and Douglas Luiz moving up or whatever. I think the most likely thing is it's a free kind of behind or alongside Watkins of Buendia, Traore and Grealish in almost any order. So, yeah, I think he's out of the players we have starting 11. Sadly over Al Ghazi, but Traore, I think, he was dynamite against Chelsea on the last day. I think he went quite under the radar as well, despite how many goals and assists he brought to the team, which is it's a bit odd. But yeah, he was kind of critical at points last season, and he went off the ball quite a bit. But sometimes there can be no more exciting player than him when he wants to be. So
we'll go through these three as a trio then. You've got Nakamba, Ramsey and Sanson all vying for one spot, essentially, if you're playing three in midfield and you're missing Ross Barkley from last year, so one of those comes in and takes his spot. We've seen more of Ramsey and Nakamba than Sanson, but that's just because of injury. But Sanson coming in for 15 million is your best player, to put air quotes around it, you'd suggest. Villa aren't going to sell any of these three, I wouldn't have thought. There might be a loan for Ramsey, perhaps, but I'm tempted to just stick them all in squad player because I think they can all do a job for us. Yeah, there's different types of midfielder in there, isn't there? Nakamba, of course, is the root of that midfield, and Sanson's probably the more John McGinn replacement in the midfield with a bit more of a defensive outlook, and Ramsey would probably be then your number 10. But
I think all three are interchangeable to some extent. Of course, Nakamba's not going to be playing 10. But if you were stuck and John McGinn was out and there was no Sanson, you maybe, or even though Douglas Luiz were in such a desperate position, he could play slightly higher up. You know, there's no absolute shame there, but they're all kind of interchangeable to some degree, and all fulfill different roles in that midfield. So yeah, I think there's, you've got almost your Douglas Luiz sub, your John McGinn sub, and your Jack Grealish sub there, like all in one. Or you're never going to take Grealish off, are you, to be honest? But your Buendia sub probably. We all saw what happened when he was taken off last season. You weren't happy, was he, at all? But in theory, you've got your three midfield replacements there. You've got the head of the midfield, so your Grealish, Buendia, whomever's playing at the top, McGinn. You've got your box-to-box replacement in Sanson, or even Ramsey. You can play that role as well. Nakamba to some extent, as I said, and then your Douglas Luiz replacement in either Sanson or Nakamba, depending on the game. So all three fit the bill for squad player for me.
We actually saw Ramsey get quite a few minutes in the Premier League last season. Yeah. Do you think that there's any benefit to him having a full season somewhere else?
Potentially, but he's at a level now where he has graduated into in and around the first team. Dean Smith and the coaching staff really like him. There has been a role for him on the pitch, and he wasn't tearing up trees last year. He's probably a 6 out of 10. But for someone who last played at Doncaster, broke through, beating League One, looked really well to come straight into the Villa, it's really, really positive. He was starting a few games last season, which is really, really nice to see. See if he can grow this season. Maybe the loan is something we look at in January or even next season, but he's really progressed quite well. And if he's performing averagely in the Premier League at a young age, hopefully he can kick on and be someone who's changing games. He just needs a bit more confidence. But yeah, he's in there thinking, which is nice.
I think if Villa sign a new proper holding midfielder and that allows Luiz or McGinn to push further forward, I think that relegates Ramsey to being the last choice. I think, because then you've got Nakamba, who's your straight swap for your holding midfielder. Sanson's your straight swap for Luiz or McGinn, or even Luiz or McGinn might drop down to the bench if they're only playing a 2. So I think that gives Ramsey such few minutes that you then a championship loan would be beneficial to him. But like you said, if you keep him around and you get a big injury to Sanson or Nakamba again, Ramsey's your first choice sub then, isn't he, for midfield? So it's one of those, if he's in and around the first team squad, that's going to be good for his development. If he goes and plays 45 games in the championship, that's going to be good development for him as well. So it's a win-win for me with Ramsey, I think.
Yeah, there's not really a situation where he can lose. Like, for the academy group, he's obviously the top of the pecking order. So if someone goes out of midfield, probably won't be Chukwuemeka that they're looking at immediately. It'll be Ramsey who comes in, and then Chukwuemeka moves up that slot. But look, that's Chukwuemeka's place to earn as well. There's competition there, so it's really nice to see how kind of much competition Villa have in that department. Because, like you said, either way, if you buy that new midfielder, there's more competition. Ramsey or Chukwuemeka go out on loan then, and they impress elsewhere, and then you can reassess again at the end of the season. If Villa are in a situation where someone comes in for a midfielder, then there's a natural kind of graduation. Let's
have a look at this list one more time, and now we've got it down in full. Martinez in goal, Cash right back, Concert and Mings, your centre back partnership with Matt Target at left back, the same back 5 as last season. Douglas Luiz and John McGinn as your 2 midfielders. Bertrand Traore on the right midfield, Emi Buendia at number 10, Jack Grealish on the left, and Ollie Watkins up front. I tell you what, it's a good starting 11 now, isn't it? There's only one addition in there, but they've all had a solid year in the Premier League. And Jack Grealish, obviously, at this point, we're still saying that he's staying another season with Villa. Watkins has had a full season and scored goals. Buendia is coming in as your main signing so far. That first 11 looks really good to me at the moment. I think you could argue that Luiz or McGinn could potentially be dropped for a new midfielder, or Bertrand Traore gets dropped for your new midfielder. You play 3 in the centre, and Buendia is your right-sided player.
It's not bad at all, is it? I mean, we'd probably look for some areas of the pitch to be freshened up with 1 or 2 more signings, but as a starting platform, the way this kind of unit has grown, should have faith in them to continue on that path. And if it doesn't, obviously it'd be really, really disappointing. But 1 or 2 more signings, had a few more competition, maybe up front, on the wing, in the middle, wherever those signings are placed. I think it's could be a really positive season for Aston Villa again. Hopefully we have those signs of growth that can lead us into Europe.
We've got 27 players there in the squad as it stands, with only 3 going out on loan or being sold. Is there any there that you think we need to change before we wrap this up, or are you happy with how we've assessed that squad?
I think right now, that's how the land would probably lie. You could even see a few more move into sales. We don't know what will happen to, Al Ghazi, Gilbert, Nakamba. for example, I'm sure they'll be kept around, but if an offer comes in, Wesley, if an offer comes in, you don't know what Villa are thinking. Barry, Kessler, again, could be high time for loans, even Ramsey, depending on what happens. But right now, I think that's the most likely thing. Chukwuemeka getting senior minutes, Philippe Bidace getting senior minutes, Kessler and Barry probably staying another season with the academy. Kessler's pathway to the first team seems to exist already. Davis could be sticking around depending on what happens to striker. Same with Courtney Hall, unless you buy another centre-back. He's sticking around. Trezeguet injured. But yeah, I think we're fine with that. I mean, again, you could see more people moving to loan and sell, but right now, can't see it changing much.
Agreed. And the main thing is, as long as anyone in that blue tab at the top, starting 11, doesn't leave, we're in good shape, aren't we?
Yeah, it'll be I said if Mcginn leaves, hypothetically, if Mcginn were to leave, wouldn't be as big as a blow for losing Grealish, but it's still a blow because it's such a close-knit unit. Same with Tyra Mings and Matty Cash. There's characters in this squad that help the whole, the whole be better than the individual. So anyone leaving would be a blow in relative order. And of course, key that Jack stays as well.
Well, there's our little analysis of the Villa squad depth as it stands on July 14th, 2021. If things change, but hopefully if they do, it's for the better and not for the worse. Thank you very much for watching this episode of the Claret and Blue podcast. We'll be back again next week at some point, I would assume. We've got an interview with Ray Houghton coming out tomorrow on Thursday, which is Ash Priest did that with about 45 minutes with him, but some really good stories in there. I'll actually put the trailer in for it here as well.
When the fans are enjoying it, there's nothing better. When the fans are appreciating what you're doing and they're enjoying the football and they want to come to the games, they can't wait for the next one. That's the sign of a successful side. I played in every game up to the final, and then he changed his mind and changed the team. I was fuming, I must admit. I'm not going to stick there and lie. I think I played in 7 semi-finals in 10 years for 4 different clubs. I didn't like losing. I didn't want to be associated with losers. To me, come second, you've come nowhere. You need to win it. I wanted winners around me. I want people who had that attitude. Show me someone who likes losing, and I'll show you your loser. He was unbelievable. I mean, how good could he have been if he could have trained? Ron would say, right, we're going to walk through the corners and the free kicks because Big Paul couldn't run. And then he'd go out on the Saturday and man of the match, Paul Mcgrath. So he was a phenomenon, a one-off. I speak how I find. Brian was a club legend, for everything that he'd done. But it was the first time where, as I said to you with Big Ron before, Ron was a winner and he spoke like a winner. Brian didn't come across that way to me. He was more encouraging for me to go. I think he was more into, he might be best all round if you go. And you get that feeling, and I don't want to be at a club where I'm not wanted. That's for sure.
But yeah, thank you very much for watching this episode. Hopefully I've been able to edit together pretty smoothly since it's taken us about 4 hours to record this over different periods. James, thanks so much for all your help.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. And we'll catch you again next week. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please do let us know. We love hearing your feedback. We'll be back soon with another episode, but until then, up the Villa.